You've probably heard of the caveman diet. Big slabs of meat, mountains of bacon, maybe a sad little side of vegetables that you're allowed to feel guilty about. The idea is simple. Our ancestors were mighty hunters who lived on meat. So to eat like a real human, you should too. There's just one problem. It's mostly wrong. The real diet of an ancient human was weirder, grosser, more clever, and honestly, way more interesting than a plate of steak. They ate things that would make a modern foodie faint. They fought bees for dessert. They cracked open bones to slurp out the inside. And the single most important food in human history is probably not what you think. By the end of this video, you'll know what our ancestors actually put in their mouths to survive, and why it made us the creatures we are today. Let's dig in. Let's kill the biggest myth first. When we picture ancient humans and food, we picture hunting, the spear, the chase, the kill. And hunting was real and important. But day to day, for most ancient human groups, the majority of the calories did not come from running down giant animals. They came from gathering, from plants, roots, tubers, nuts, seeds, fruits, berries, leaves, wild grains, the boring green stuff. Because here's the cold logic of survival. A hunt can fail. You can chase an animal all day and come back with nothing. But a patch of roots doesn't run away. A nut tree doesn't sprint off into the bushes. Gathered plant food was the reliable base of the diet, the stuff that kept people alive between the dramatic, unpredictable hunts. So that picture of the manly hunter living on pure meat, in reality, a huge share of survival came down to people patiently digging up roots and cracking open nuts. Not glamorous, completely essential. The gatherers were the quiet heroes keeping everyone fed. But and this matters. When our ancestors did get meat, it was incredibly valuable. And the reason why is going to surprise you. Here's something that sounds backwards to modern ears. Where we spend our lives trying to avoid fat, for an ancient human, fat was treasure. Think about it. Out in the wild, calories are hard to get. You're burning energy all day just to survive, walking, hunting, gathering, staying warm. And lean meat, pure muscle, actually isn't a great survival food on its own. Your body struggles to live on protein alone. Eat nothing but lean meat for too long, and you actually get sick. You need fat and carbohydrates for energy. So the most prized animals weren't necessarily the biggest, they were the fattest. The richest parts of any kill weren't the lean muscle everyone pictures. They were the fatty bits. The brain, the marrow, the organs, the stuff packed with the dense energy a hard-working body desperately needed. This completely flips the modern story. We imagine cavemen tearing into a steak. The real ancient human would have looked at your lean steak and gone for the fatty, greasy, energy-rich parts you'd probably throw away. Which brings us to one of the grossest and most genius foods in human history, bone marrow. The soft fatty stuff inside bones. Now picture the savannah a couple of million years ago. A lion makes a kill. It eats its fill and then it leaves. The hyenas move in and strip off most of the meat. Then the vultures. By the time everybody's done, there's basically nothing left but bones. Nothing left. Except what's inside the bones. And here's the thing. Almost no other animal could get to it. Marrow is locked inside thick bone, protected like a safe. The big predators couldn't crack the biggest bones. But early humans had a key the rest of the food chain didn't have. Rocks. Smash the bone open with a stone, and suddenly you've unlocked a rich, fatty, high-energy food that everybody else had to walk past. This is huge. It means our early ancestors had a survival strategy hiding in plain sight. While other animals fought over the meat, we waited, walked in last, and ate the one part nobody else could reach. We weren't just hunters. We were the cleverest scavengers on Earth, using tools to crack open a pantry sealed shut for everyone else. That single trick, stone plus bone equals food, may have helped fuel the early growth of the very brains that figured it out. A gross, greasy, slurpy little superpower. When an ancient human got a kill, they did not eat the way we do. We picked the nice cuts and tossed the rest. They ate almost everything, and they often went for the organs first. Why? Because organs are nutritional gold. The liver, heart, kidneys, and other organs are packed with vitamins, minerals, and fat that lean muscle just doesn't have. In a world with no supplements and no grocery store, eating the whole animal organs and all was how you got the full range of nutrients your body needed to stay healthy. Nothing went to waste ever. Hide became clothing and shelter. Bone became tools and marrow. Sinew became cord. Organs and fat became the most nutrient-dense meal around. To an ancient human, wasting any part of a hard-won kill would have been almost insane. The whole animal was survival. Okay, brace yourself, because one of the most reliable foods in human history is one most modern people refuse to touch. Insects, grubs, larvae, termites, beetles, grasshoppers, caterpillars. To a lot of cultures around the world today, this still sounds disgusting. But step back and look at it from a survival point of view, and bugs are basically the perfect food. They're everywhere. They're easy to catch, no chasing, no danger, no spear required. And they're loaded with protein and fat. Our close relatives chimpanzees famously fish for termites with sticks. There's every reason to think early humans did the same and more. While the dramatic hunt might fail a termite mound or a fallen log full of grubs, was a near-guaranteed meal, high in energy, low in risk, available almost anywhere. So that disgusted reaction you might be having, that's culture, not biology. For most of human history, a handful of fat grubs would have been a genuinely good day. Don't knock it. Your ancestors were thrilled about it. Now, for the sweet part, literally. Honey was one of the most prized foods an ancient human could find. In a world with almost no concentrated sugar, honey was an explosion of pure instant energy. It's calorie-dense, it's delicious, and our brains are practically wired to crave sweetness, because sweet usually meant safe, ripe, and full of energy. The catch: it's guarded by thousands of angry bees. And our ancestors went for it anyway. People around the world have been raiding wild beehives for an incredibly long time, climbing dangerous heights, braving the stings, sometimes using smoke to count the swarm. There are ancient rock paintings showing humans gathering honey, which tells you just how important it was. It was worth getting stung dozens of times for that hit of sweet energy. Honey is a perfect little window into the ancient mind. They weren't just surviving on whatever was easiest. They worked, they took risks, they used tools and tricks, all for a food that was rich, rare, and worth the pain. Don't forget the water. Wherever ancient humans lived near rivers, lakes, or the sea, the water was a pantry. Fish, shellfish, mussels, crabs. Shoreline foods are often easy to gather. Shellfish, in particular, don't run away, so they're a low-risk, reliable meal, a bit like underwater nuts you have to pry open. Coastlines and rivers were rich feeding grounds, and the evidence shows ancient humans used them heavily. And here's a fascinating idea some scientists have explored. Seafood is packed with certain fats and nutrients that are especially good for the brain. A few researchers have suggested that access to rich coastal and freshwater foods may have helped support the dramatic growth of the human brain. It's still debated, but it's a tantalizing thought that some of our cleverness might have been fueled by a diet of fish and shellfish gathered along an ancient shore. Whether or not seafood made us smarter, one thing is clear. Ancient humans were endlessly adaptable eaters. Forest plain, mountain coast, wherever they were, they figured out what was edible and went and got it. That flexibility was a survival superpower all on its own. Now, the single most important thing that ever happened to the human diet wasn't a food at all. It was a technique. Cooking. When our ancestors learned to control fire and apply it to their food, everything changed. And I mean everything. Think about what heat does. It kills a lot of the dangerous bacteria and parasites in raw food, so you get sick less. It softens tough plants and meat, so you spend way less time and energy just chewing. And this is the big one. It makes the energy in food easier for your body to unlock. Cooked food is, in a sense, partly pre-digested by the fire before it ever reaches your stomach. That means more usable energy from every single bite. And one of the most expensive, energy-hungry organs in your entire body is your brain. Some scientists argue that cooking was a key that unlocked enough extra energy to help fuel the growth of our big, powerful, hungry brains. Cooking may have literally helped make us smart. It also reshaped our very bodies. Compared to our ancestors and our ape cousins, we have smaller teeth and shorter guts. Bodies that are built around the assumption that our food will be softened and improved by cooking before we eat it. We are so dependent on cooking that in a real sense, fire became part of our digestive system. The campfire wasn't just warmth and safety. It was the world's first kitchen and arguably one of the most important inventions in the entire human story. Now, it's just as important to understand what ancient humans did not have because it changes the whole picture. They had no farming. For almost the entire human story, nobody grew food. There were no fields of wheat, no orchards, no herds of tame animals waiting to be eaten. Every single calorie had to be found in the wild, hunted, gathered, dug up, or cracked open. The reliable, predictable food supply we take completely for granted simply did not exist. They had no way to store food long-term. No fridge, no freezer, no cans, no pantry stocked for the month. In warm climates, food rotted fast, so you ate what you found when you found it. And you couldn't easily save the good times for the bad ones. Feast today could mean famine next week, and they had almost no concentrated sugar, just the rare prize of honey or ripe fruit. No bread, no rice, no pasta. None of the cheap, dense carbohydrates that fill modern plates. Most ancient humans also stopped drinking milk after childhood. The ability of many adults to digest milk came much later in our story, alongside the keeping of animals. This is the hard truth hiding under everything we've talked about. The ancient diet wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a constant grinding struggle against hunger. Food was never guaranteed. The seasons changed what was available. The hunts failed, the berries ran out, and lean times, real, dangerous, hungry times, were a normal part of life. Every food we've covered, from grubs to marrow to honey, was a weapon in an endless war against starvation. So when we admire how cleverly our ancestors ate, let's not romanticize it. They ate strangely and widely and resourcefully because they had to. The menu was wild, brilliant, and gross because the alternative was going hungry. So if you take one big idea away from this video, let it be this. There was never one single ancient human diet. Forget the neat marketable idea of the one true caveman menu. The reality is that ancient humans ate whatever their particular world offered. and that changed completely depending on where and when they lived. People near the coast ate seafood. People on the cold plains relied more heavily on big game and fat. People in lush forests had fruit, nuts, and grubs. And everywhere the menu changed with the seasons. Berries in one part of the year, roots in another. A big hunt when the herds passed through. The real human diet wasn't a list of foods. It was a strategy. Be flexible, eat widely, waste nothing. Take what the land gives and use your brain and your tools to unlock food that other animals can't reach. That adaptability, the ability to thrive on almost anything, almost anywhere, is one of the biggest reasons our species spread across the entire planet. Here's what hits me about all of this. Every fatty, greasy, gross, hard-won bite our ancestors fought for, every cracked bone, every handful of grubs, every honeycomb worth 100 stings, was a tiny victory against starvation. They didn't eat for pleasure or for a six-pack. They ate to live. And getting enough food was the central drama of their entire lives. And that ancient relationship with food is still buried inside you. Your love of sweet things, that's your brain rewarding you for finding rare energy like that hard-won honey. Your love of fatty, rich foods, that's a body still tuned for a world where fat was treasure. We're walking around with the cravings of a creature that had to fight for every calorie, living in a world where calories are everywhere. That mismatch explains a lot about modern eating if you think about it. So the next time you open a full fridge or order food to your door with a tap, take half a second to appreciate the absurd miracle of it. Your ancestors smashed bones open with a rock and got stung by bees for a snack. You get steak and honey whenever you want, with no swarm of bees in sight. You won the food lottery. They bought the ticket, one cracked bone at a time. Now there's a hidden skill behind a lot of this food that almost nobody thinks about, and it completely changes how clever you realize our ancestors were. Because here's a problem. A surprising number of wild plants aren't just sitting there ready to eat. Many of them are tough or hard to digest, or even mildly poisonous if you eat them raw. So our ancestors learned to process their food, to transform it before eating it. They pounded hard seeds and roots between stones to break them down. They soaked things in water to soften them and to wash out bitterness. With certain plants that were actually toxic in their raw form, people figured out how to make them safe by soaking, rinsing, grinding, and leaching out the poison, often through several careful steps. Stop and think about that for a second. Somewhere long ago, people worked out that a plant that would make you sick could be turned into perfectly good food if you treated it the right way, in the right order. With no chemistry, no science as we know it, just observation, memory, and a lot of trial and error, passed down over generations. That's not the behavior of dumb brutes gnawing on whatever they find. That's sophisticated knowledge. An ancient kitchen, in a sense, with techniques as clever in their own way as anything in a modern one. Our ancestors didn't just find food. They unlocked it, processed it, and made the inedible edible. And that skill opened up whole categories of food that would otherwise have been useless or even dangerous. And then there's the most basic, most overlooked food of all. Not food, actually. Water. We talk about hunting and gathering, but none of it matters if you can't drink. Your body needs water constantly, and in many of the places our ancestors lived, especially the hot ones, finding enough clean water was a daily life or death problem. You can go a long time without food. You cannot go long without water. So water shaped everything. Where you could live, where you could travel, where you set up camp, all of it bent around the question of where to find something to drink. Our ancestors carried a detailed map in their heads of every spring, every river bend, every waterhole, and when each one could be trusted through the changing seasons. But here's the cruel catch I mentioned earlier in passing. The watering hole, the very place you absolutely have to visit, is also the single most dangerous place in the whole landscape. Because every animal needs water, the predators know exactly where to wait. Crocodiles lurk in the rivers. Big cats hang around the banks. The place that keeps you alive is also the place most likely to get you killed. So even something as simple as getting a drink became a careful operation done in a group, eyes scanning for danger, reading the ground for fresh tracks. And clean water mattered too. Dirty water carries sickness, and a serious illness in a world with no medicine could be deadly. So the choice of where to drink wasn't just about danger from predators, but about staying healthy, about survival in every sense. We rarely think of water as part of the diet, but for our ancestors, finding it, reaching it safely, and making sure it was clean was every bit as important as any food they hunted or gathered. The first and most essential ingredient of survival came not from the hunt, but from the river, the spring, and the rain. If this gave you a new appreciation for the food on your plate, smash that like button and subscribe. A fresh Ancient Humans video drops every week. And next time things get cold, we're tackling how ancient humans survived the brutal ice age when the world froze. Giant beasts roamed the snow, and one fragile, hairless creature somehow refused to die. Thanks for watching. Now go eat something, and maybe say thanks to the bees.